Welcome to everybody's story time. We are going to be reading the story of first we're going to be reading the Bible, and then we're going to be doing the substance, and then we're going to be reading the two towers. I hope you guys enjoy. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the bell, and the video. Here's my dad to read the Bible. Try that 10 times fast.
I think it was at 10 times warp speed. As you will notice, I did get a haircut, and I know I have not shaved yet, but I will be shaving before I put my uniform on. Trust me on that. However, that is still a week away. So, we are on, and I accidentally turned a page, we are on 2 Samuel chapter 8. And when everyone has pulled out their English Standard Version of the Bible, and they have... and they have it open to 2 Samuel chapter 8, then I will begin. I'm waiting. I see some page rustling. 2 Samuel chapter 8, which is conveniently right after where we left off yesterday. Are we good? Yes. All right. Let me begin. After this, David defeated the Philistines and subdued them, and David took Metheg-ammah out of the hand of the Philistines, and he defeated Moab, and he measured them with a line, making them lie down on the ground. 2 lines he measured to be put to death, and 1 full line to be spared. And the Moabites became servants to David and brought tribute. David also defeated Hadadezer, the son of Rehob, king of Zobah, and he went to restore his power at the river Euphrates. And David took from him 1,700 horsemen and 20,000 foot soldiers. Kimberly is my resident expert on the Torah because she just finished reading it recently. Tell me whether or not kings are allowed to have horses. Oh, okay, that's interesting. And 20,000 foot soldiers. And David hamstrung all the chariot horses, but left enough for 100 chariots. And when the Syrians of Damascus came to help Hadadezer, king of Zobah, David struck down 22,000 men of the Syrians. Then David put garrisons in Aram of Damascus, and the Syrians became servants to David and brought tribute, and the Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. And David took the shields of gold that were carried by the servants of Hadadezer and brought them to Jerusalem. And from Betah and from Berothai, cities of Hadadezer, King David took very much bronze. When Toi, king of Hamath, heard that David had defeated the whole army of Hadadezer, Toi sent his son Joram to King David to ask about his health and to bless him because he had fought against Hadadezer and defeated him. For Hadadezer had often been at war with Toi. And Joram brought with him articles of silver, of gold, and of bronze. These also King David dedicated to the Lord, together with the silver and gold that he dedicated from all the nations he subdued, from Edom, Moab, the Ammonites, the Philistines, Amalek, and from the spoil of Hadadezer, the son of Rehob, king of Zobah. And David made a name for himself when he returned from striking down 18,000 Edomites in the valley of Salt. Then he put garrisons in Edom. Throughout all Edom he put garrisons, and all the Edomites became David's servants, and the Lord gave victory to David wherever he went. So David reigned over all Israel, and David administered justice and equity to all his people. Joab, the son of Zeruiah, was over the army, and Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was recorder, and Zadok, the son of Ahitub, and Ahimelech, the son of Abiathar, were priests, and Sariah was secretary, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were priests. And that is the end of chapter 8, and that's where we will stop. It's very interesting because, and I wish that I had a map of Israel up over here, but it's very interesting to see. So David had a garrison that he set up in Damascus, which is way north of Israel. I mean, if you're looking on a map, I wish I had a map here. Damascus is very far from Israel, and he also, I don't actually have a map in this one, so and the other thing was all the way to the Euphrates. So okay, I think I was thinking Antioch, but so here is map, and of course it's backwards, but here is Damascus, which is not part of Israel, it's in Lebanon, and then all the way to the Euphrates, which is up here. So that's a long way, as you can see. So, thank you. Yay! All right, so now we are going to continue chapter 11 that we started last night, the Palantir, and I'm going to just really quickly go through what happened in the first part of this chapter. So Gandalf was talking to Mary, and Mary decided to touch the Palantir, and when he touched the Palantir, there were lightning bolts that came out of the Palantir. Of course, nobody knew what it was, and they were all wondering, but when they saw the lightning bolts, they were all struck dead. And that is the end of Lord of the Rings.
Say hi to Becca.
And here is Kimberly to say how it really happened.
Well, hi Becca. How are you doing today? So what actually happened was, it was Pippin, right?
It was Pippin.
Okay. So Pippin, he had picked up the crystal ball sort of thing earlier, and he's like, you know, I really, really want to hold the crystal ball again. Except Gandalf won't let me. You know, I have this great idea. I'll steal it from him. So he goes and grabs it and puts a...
He just grabbed it from Gandalf?
No.
Gandalf was hanging out, talking to
Gandalf
Aragorn?
was asleep.
Oh, okay.
Dad, let me tell the story.
And it was wrapped in a cloth.
Let me tell the story! Okay, so he grabbed a bunch of rocks and put them in a cloth, and then put it in place of the crystal ball, and then he was holding it, and Sauron, he's like, hey, why haven't I heard from you? I've been like waiting this long and no one's answered me, yada yada yada. Well, it's not exactly like that, but that's like the gist of it. And he's like, yeah, tell Saruman, yada yada yada. And so he thought that that Pippin was like a captive, and so it kind of bought him a little bit of time. And at first Gandalf was like really mad, and he was like afraid that he'd told Sauron like top secret information and stuff. But it turns out that Sauron was like in such a hurry that he wasn't thinking or something, I don't know. But then what happened was Gandalf and Pippin, they rode on Shadowfax to get there really fast after this thing flew over their heads. And I'm going to hand it off to Dad, who is going to read to us.
Hi there. I'm back. So, we had a incident that happened yesterday, and that is the reason why we had to cut this video into 2 videos. However, for YouTube, my plan is to merge them into 1 video so that we just have 1 video for chapter 11, because it is relatively short. Although, with all of this rambling, maybe it's not so short after all. We'll see. It's already been 10 minutes and we haven't even started. Alright, so the shadow fell over them. She already said that. Blah, 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 blah. Beautiful, restful night, said Merry to Aragorn. Some folk have wonderful luck. He did not want to sleep, and he wanted to ride with Gandalf. And there he goes, instead of being turned into a stone himself, to stand here forever as a warning. If you had been the first to lift the Orthanc stone, and not he, how would it be now? Said Aragorn. You might have done worse, who can say? But now it is your luck to come with me, I fear. At once, go and get ready, and bring anything that Pippin left behind. Make haste. And that is where I was going to start, so let me begin. Over the plains, Shadowfax was flying, needing no urging and no guidance. Less than an hour had passed, and they had reached the fords of Isen and crossed them. The mound of the riders and its cold spears lay gray behind them. Pippin was recovering. He was warm, but the wind in his face was keen and refreshing. He was with Gandalf. The horror of the stone and of the hideous shadow over the moon was fading. Things left behind in the mists of the mountains or in a passing dream. He drew a deep breath. I did not know you rode bareback, Gandalf, he said. You haven't a saddle or a bridle. I do not ride elf-fashion except on Shadowfax, said Gandalf. But Shadowfax will have no harness. You do not ride Shadowfax. He is willing to carry you or not. If he is willing, that is enough. It is then his business to see that you remain on his back, unless you jump off into the air. How fast is he going? Asked Pippin. Fast by the wind, but very smooth. And how light his footfalls are. He is running now as fast as the swiftest horse could gallop, answered Gandalf. But that is not fast for him. The land is rising a little here, and is more broken than it was beyond the river. But see how the white mountains are drawing near under the stars. Yonder are the Thryharn peaks, that like black spears. It will not be long before we reach the branching roads and come to the Deeping Combe, where the battle was fought 2 nights ago. Pippin was silent again for a while. He heard Gandalf singing softly to himself, murmuring brief snatches of rhyme in many tongues as the miles ran under them. At last the wizard passed into a song of which the hobbit caught the words. A few lines came clear to his ears through the rushing of the wind. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3, what brought they from the foundered land over the flowing sea? 7 stars and 7 stones and 1 white tree. What are you saying, Gandalf? Asked Pippin. I was just running over some of the rhymes of lore in my mind, answered the wizard. Hobbits, I suppose, have forgotten them, even those that they ever knew. No, not at all, said Pippin, and we have many of our own, which wouldn't interest you, perhaps, but I have never heard this one. What is it about, the 7 stars and 7 stones? About the Palantiri of the kings of old, said Gandalf. And what are they? The name meant that which looks far away. The Orthanc stone was one. Then it was not made. Then it was not made. Does that make sense to anyone? Pippin hesitated. Oh, I see. It was not made by the enemy. Haha. Okay, now it makes sense. No, said Gandalf, nor by Saruman. It is beyond his art, and beyond Sauron's too. The Palantiri came from beyond Westerness, from Eldamar. The Noldor made them. Feanor himself, maybe, wrought them in days so long ago that the time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. Alas for Saruman, it was his downfall, as I now perceive. Perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves, yet he must bear the blame. Fool! To keep it secret for his own profit. No word did he ever speak of it to any of the council. We had not yet given thought to the fate of the Palantiri of Gondor in its ruinous wars. By men they were almost forgotten. Even in Gondor they were a secret known only to a few. In Arnor they were remembered only in a rhyme of lore among the Dunedain. What did the men of old use them for? Asked Pippin, delighted and astonished at getting answers to so many questions, and wondering how long it would last. To see far off, and to converse in thought with one another, said Gandalf. In that way they long guarded and united the realm of Gondor. They set up stones at Minas Arnor, and at Minas Ithil, and at Orthanc in the ring of Isengard. The chief and master of these was under the dome of stars at Osgiliath before its ruin. The three others were far away in the north. In the house of Elrond, it is told that they were at Anuminus and Amansul, and Elendil's stone was on the tower hills that look toward Mithlond in the Gulf of Lune, where the grey ships lay. Each Palantir replied to each, but all those in Gondor were ever open to the view of Osgiliath. Now it appears that as the rock of Orthanc has withstood the storms of time, so there the Palantir of that tower has remained. But alone it could do nothing but see small images of things far off and days remote. Very useful, no doubt, that was to Saruman, yet it seems that he was not content. Further and further abroad he gazed, until he cast his gaze upon Barad-dûr. Then he was caught. Who knows where the lost stones of Arnor and Gondor lie now, buried or drowned deep, but one at least Sauron must have obtained and mastered to his purposes. I guess that it was the Ithil stone, for he took Minas Ithil long ago and turned it into an evil place. Minas Morgul it has become. Easy it is now to guess how quickly the roving eye of Saruman was trapped and held, and how ever since he has been persuaded from afar, and daunted when persuasion would not serve. The biter bit, the hawk under the eagle's foot, the spider in a steel web. How long, I wonder, has he been constrained to come often to his glass for inspection and instruction? And the Orthanc stone so bent toward Barad-dûr that if any save a will of adamant now looks into it, it will bear his mind and sight swiftly thither. And how it draws one to itself. Have I not felt it? Even now my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would. To look across the wide seas of water and of time to Tirion the fair, and perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Feanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. He sighed and fell silent. I wish I had known all this before, said Pippin. I had no notion of what I was doing. Oh, yes, you had, said Gandalf. You knew you were behaving wrongly and foolishly, and you told yourself so, though you did not listen. I did not tell you all this before, because it is only by musing on all that has happened that I have at last understood, even as we ride together. But if I had spoken sooner, it would not have lessened your desire, or made it easier to resist. On the contrary, no, the burned hand teaches best. After that, advice about fire goes to the heart." "It does," said Pippin. "If all the 7 stones were laid out before me now, I should shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets." "Good," said Gandalf. "That is what I hoped." "But I should like to know," Pippin began. "Mercy," said Gandalf. "If the giving of information is to be the cure of your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know?" "The names of all the stars, and of all living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth, and over heaven, and of the sundering seas," laughed Pippin. "Of course, what less? But I am not in a hurry tonight. At the moment I was just wondering about the Black Shadow. I heard you shout, 'Messenger of Mordor.' What was it? What could it do at Isengard?" "It was a Black Rider, on wings, a Nazgul," said Gandalf. "It could have taken you away to the Dark Tower." "But it was not coming for me, was it?" faltered Pippin. "I mean, it didn't know that I had—" "Of course not," said Gandalf. "It is 200 leagues or more in straight flight from Barad-dûr to Orthanc, and even a Nazgul would take a few hours to fly between them. But Saruman certainly looked in the stone since the Orc raid, and more of his secret thought, I do not doubt, has been read than he intended. A messenger has been sent to find out what he is doing, and after what has happened tonight, another will come, I think, and swiftly. So Saruman will come to the last pinch of the last vice that he has put his hand in. He has no captive to send, he has no stone to see with, and cannot answer the summons. Sauron will only believe that he is withholding the captive and refusing to use the stone. It will not help Saruman to tell the truth to the messenger, for Isengard may be ruined, yet he is still safe in Orthanc. So whether he will or no, he will appear a rebel. Yet he rejected us, so as to avoid that very thing. What he will do in such a plight I cannot guess. He has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to do so. He may try to trap the Nazgul, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides in the air. In that case, let Rohan look to its horses. But I cannot tell how it will fall out, well or ill for us. It may be that the counsels of the enemy will be confused or hindered by his wrath with Saruman. It may be that he will learn that I was there and stood upon the stairs of Orthanc with hobbits at my tail, or that an heir of Elendil lives and stood beside me. If Wormtongue was not deceived by the armor of Rohan, he would remember Aragorn and the title that he claimed. That is what I fear, and so we fly, not from danger, but into greater danger. Every stride of Shadowfax bears you nearer to the land of shadow, Peregrine Took." Pippin made no answer, but clutched his cloak, as if a sudden chill had struck him. Grey land passed under them. "See now," said Gandalf. "The Westfold Dales are opening before us. Here we come back to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the Deeping Combe. That way lies Aglarond and the glittering caves. Do not ask me about them. Ask Gimli if you meet again. And for the first time you may get an answer longer than you wish. You will not see the caves yourself, not on this journey. Soon they will be far behind." "I thought you were going to stop at Helm's Deep," said Pippin. "Where are you going, then?" "To Minas Tirith, before the seas of war surround it." "Oh, and how far is that?" "Leagues upon leagues," answered Gandalf. "Thrice as far as the dwellings of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east from here, as the messengers of Mordor fly. Shadowfax must run a longer road, which will prove the swifter. We shall ride now till daybreak, and that is some hours away. Then even Shadowfax must rest, in some hollow of the hills, at Edoras, I hope. Sleep if you can. you may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the house of Eorl. And in 2 days thence you shall see the purple shadow of Mount Mindoluin and the walls of the Tower of Denethor white in the morning. Away now, Shadowfax, run, Greatheart, run as you have never run before. Now we are come to the lands where you were foaled, and every stone you know. Run now, hope is in speed. Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud, as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. Then he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still as stone, seated upon the statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise in the wind. And that is the end of chapter 11 and the end of book 3. And the next time that we get together, which will be in a while, we will begin book 4. So I hope that you're enjoying the story, The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. And have a great night. Hope you enjoy the video.